everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. Little behind with this one, but I need to keep up my record of talking about all of the championship managerial hirings and firings. Well, the latest hiring and firing has occurred, and it is Michael ONeill, the Northern Ireland manager, is now in at Stoke City in a very interesting looking deal, but we'll talk about that now. Remember, before the last international break, we had that little splurge with Reading, Millwall and Barnsley all getting rid of their managers. Still open at Barnsley, but a little bit quicker at Stoke. Nathan Jones going, I think, last Friday. Then we got all of those Alex Neil rumours and denials, etc, etc. And a week later, here comes Michael ONeill as the Stoke boss. Stoke, bottom of the league. We know the story. Relegated down last season. We'll go into that a little bit in a minute. Really terrible sort of 18 months or so. And they find themselves in the middle of their year 2 parachute payment. In a bit of a mess, let's just say. And ONeill has gone in. I'm recording at 10:35 on the Saturday morning, straight in to take this game, this big game today. It's Stoke on the bottom, visiting Barnsley 23rd. So he could take them off the bottom in his first day in charge, basically. Michael ONeill is 50, but he's very, very experienced. He's been the Northern Ireland boss since right late in 2011 and noted for taking them to the Euro 2016 tournament and getting them to the second round after a win against the Ukraine in the group stages. Prior to that, he was at Brechin in Scotland and Shamrock Rovers as well. So he has never managed in England, and he hasn't managed the club team now for, well, 8 years. But presumably tactically and in terms of knowledge of European players, should be very, very good. And also, the Northern Ireland job is always all about taking a small pool of players and getting the most out of them and having a particularly good home record. So whether or not these skills fit, we'll find out. As I've said, it's a very odd deal. He signed a 3-year contract, but has permission from Stoke to continue working for Northern Ireland. So, for example, he's going to do this game today, go and do all the press and everything. Presumably the players are off tomorrow, and then he goes to do Northern Ireland. Now, there's only a few group games left, but if they reach the playoffs, he'll do the playoff games, and if they reach the tournament, he'll do that. Now, I'd be interested to know whether people think that that shows loyalty on his side or on Stoke's side, probably a little bit on both, or whether, if you're a Stoke fan, you want your manager on the ground already starting to sort this mess out in terms of pattern of play and in terms of working with agents and things of that nature to try and sort out what is a bloated squad. Again, could cut both ways. I'd be interested in the comments to know what people think. As I said, Stoke is a complete mess. We all remember the start of last season when they went to Leeds on the first day, and we looked at the teams, and if we were going to pick a team out of Stoke or Leeds, just player for player, bear in mind we didn't know the Bielsa impact then, everyone's saying, oh, Stoke are going to coast this. Look at the players they've got. And they made what's turned out to be a bad managerial hire. I don't know if you can lay blame about what's happened at Stoke at Gary Rowett or whether there's bigger things to that, but certainly it didn't work out for Rowett. But he was given the keys to the kingdom and most of the parachute money by the look of it, because in comes Afobe, Ince, Vokes, Woods, Etebo, Clucas, McLean, Federici. I think later in the season, maybe Vokes or Danny Bath as well. I don't know the exact timeline, but all those players into the club last season, and for good money as well. 10 million, 7 millions, 5 millions. You know, you're going up against teams like Millwall, who'll spend 1.5 million on one player and that's their top guy. And Stoke really peppered the squad here. And you look through those players as well. Afobe proven with Wolves, Ince with Derby, Vokes at the Premier League, Woods with Brentford, Etebo from further outside, Clucas obviously with Hull and Swansea, McLean at a higher level as well, and he'll be known to Michael O'Neill as well. Always an interesting one, James McLean. So Rowett gets fired, in comes Nathan Jones, this bright young thing from League One, top of the league with Luton in League One, playing this 4-4-2 diamond, and you know, quite the talker and the bright young thing. It doesn't go too well for Jones to begin with, but there's always this sense of give him a pre-season, let him get his ideas across, let him get his plays, and all the things we normally hear. So here we go again. In comes Smith, Lindsay, Davis, Powell, Ward, Cousins, Gregorian on loan, Duffy, Carter, Vickers and Hogan. So the big difference is that Jones was allowed to bring players in, but not... I don't know if there's many fees at all, and a lot of frees. I think the guys from Barnsley, and I think Tommy Smith was about 4 million as well, but certainly a lot of free transfers and loans, and some from League One before. Obviously the two Barnsley players he would have been up against while he was Luton manager. So you now have this situation of two different types of managers bringing in lots of different players, bloated squad, and just for whatever reason, I've done a video on Nathan Jones this past week. It didn't work out. They were fragile. Some say they're unlucky at the start of the seasons, and then it just got untenable in the end. There was a couple of back-to-back wins and then another couple of defeats after that. And the Bet365 guys who own Stoke acted, and out he goes. So Michael O'Neill inherits a year 2 parachute team who have spent big. There's FFP constraints to think about. There'll be another parachute payment coming in next season, but I think it's like 15 million, which compared to the 75 million they've already had. So I'm thinking that money in terms of, you know, just a checkbook to go sign players isn't going to be an option without shifting out players. A lot depends on the deals that were sanctioned as to what they're going to get back and whether they can shift these players. Often we've seen instances where players will say, well, you know what, I've signed this contract, I like the salary, and I'm going to hang around here and try and get in your team, and I will not be going anywhere. So whether he comes up against that or not is a different matter. We talked about the skill set. If he can't bring players in and he has to work with a pool, then he should be good at this. Because in international football, you're essentially given a pool of players, and it's right, okay, make a team out of these players. You can't go sign anybody, and maybe that will be the remit there. Who knows? Can he do it? Is obviously the $64 billion question. Part of me wants to question this unique division like the Championship, and somebody who hasn't worked in it before, whether or not that's an issue. I don't know what he's done backroom staff wise. I don't know what knowledge there is in terms of Championship ready people. Certainly a lot of players are, but in terms of management at the club, although it would be slightly feeble of me to question the tactical acumen of a manager who's managed to get Northern Ireland to their first major tournament in 30 years. So we never can tell how these international managers transition across the club, or vice versa. Sometimes they're good at both. Sometimes we get people, even, you know, a manager as great as Fabio Capello was as a club manager, was just a horrible England manager, wasn't he? So the parallel I'm drawing was Mark Hughes, who didn't do a lot of club management, went to do Wales, which is a small nation, and then did very well at Blackburn and ended up getting the Manchester City job. So that's the big upside, obviously, for Stoke if you get that kind of thing play out afterwards, whether you're just getting a good person who's good tactically, who's good intelligent, who's experienced, who knows the players. The only hang up I've got is the 8 years out of club too long, and is that the Championship does, you know, eat up and spit out managers. I mean, just look at Nathan Jones there. So I'm down the middle as usual on this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not hedging my bets. I will say, no, I think this is a good hire. No, I think this is a bad hire. I'm completely down the middle. I don't think we have enough evidence of Michael O'Neill in terms of the Championship, in terms of working in England, and in terms of working at club over the past 8 years to say definitively or not good or bad. It's certainly going to be an interesting one. I'm interested to hear people's comments on obviously how they think it's going to go, how they think Stoke will get on now. Is the continuing to do the Northern Ireland job an issue? And do you agree with my indecision in terms of the lack of evidence as to whether it will be good and bad? If you're a Northern Ireland fan as well watching, or a Stoke fan, particularly interested in your opinions. But as usual, it's an open forum here. We'll take anybody's comments as long as they're polite and civil, as they're often not on YouTube. That's my take on Michael O'Neill. Like I say, fairly down the middle, and looking for some affirmation and some information in the comments. Do let me know what you think down there. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. If it's the first time you're watching, I do a whole ton of Championship-based stuff, previews, reviews, at games. In fact, I'm going to walk down there and go to Forest Derby in a short minute. Also do Ipswich Town stuff. That is the team I support. Sadly, they're no longer in the Championship, but hopefully not for long, and we can David Brent and we can bring everything back together. So well worth hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell. But moreover, if you don't do that, please give me a comment on what you think of the hire of Michael O'Neill as the Stoke City manager. Thank you for watching. Over and out.